The boarding pass fell out of Derek's gym bag like a grenade rolling across our bedroom floor. Cabo San Lucas. First class. Departure October 15th, return October 25th. I stood there holding his sweaty workout clothes, staring at that small piece of paper that would detonate my entire world. The problem wasn't that my husband had booked a vacation without telling me. The problem was the second boarding pass stapled behind his. Same flight. Same dates. Different name. Vanessa Hartley. My hands went numb. The laundry basket slipped from my grip, spilling socks and shirts across the hardwood. 10 days in Mexico with another woman. 10 days during what he'd told me was a critical business conference in Seattle that he absolutely could not miss. 10 days while I stayed home managing our household, taking care of his stepdaughter, living my regular life like the fool I apparently was. I picked up both boarding passes with shaking fingers. They were real. Premium economy seats. Before we jump back and tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. A beachfront resort I'd shown Derek last year when I suggested we take a family trip. He'd said it was too expensive, that we needed to be practical about our spending. Apparently practical meant spending thousands on a romantic getaway with someone who wasn't his wife. The shower was still running in our bathroom. Derek was in there, probably humming some tune, completely unaware that I'd just discovered his secret. Part of me wanted to burst through that door and throw the evidence in his face. Another part of me, a quieter but somehow stronger part, whispered something different. Wait. Think. Plan. I grabbed my phone and photographed both boarding passes from every angle. Then I carefully tucked them back into the side pocket of his gym bag exactly where they'd fallen from. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat, but my hands were steady as I picked up the scattered laundry and continued folding like nothing had happened. The bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out, followed by Derek in his bathrobe, rubbing a towel through his damp hair. He smiled at me, that easy familiar smile I'd trusted for 6 years of marriage. Hey babe. Thanks for grabbing my gym stuff. I was disgusting after that workout. No problem, I heard myself say. My voice sounded normal. Almost cheerful. Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Perfect. I'm starving. He kissed my forehead and walked past me toward his closet, completely oblivious to the fact that everything had just changed. I walked downstairs on autopilot, my mind racing through the implications. Vanessa Hartley. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. Someone from his office? A client? I'd met so many people at Derek's work functions over the years that faces and names blurred together. In the kitchen, I pulled chicken from the oven and stood at the counter, staring at the boarding pass photos on my phone. October 15th was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks to figure out who Vanessa Hartley was, what Derek was planning, and what I was going to do about it. Mom, that smells amazing. Zoe appeared in the kitchen doorway, dropping her backpack by the table. My 15-year-old daughter had Derek's knack for perfect timing, always showing up exactly when food was ready. Roasted chicken and vegetables. Can you set the table? Sure. Zoe grabbed plates from the cabinet, glancing at me with those observant eyes that missed nothing. You okay? You look weird. Just tired. Long day at work. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. Zoe had learned early in life to read the room, a skill she developed during my messy divorce from her biological father. She knew when adults were hiding something. Derek joined us for dinner, talking enthusiastically about a property deal he was closing next week. I nodded and made appropriate responses while my mind worked through scenarios. Should I confront him now? Demand answers? Or should I dig deeper first, make sure I understood the full situation before I played my hand? Laura? Did you hear me? Derek was looking at me expectantly. Sorry, what? I said I'll be traveling to Seattle from the 15th to the 25th. That regional developers conference I mentioned last month. I know the timing isn't great, but it's important for the business. There it was. The lie delivered smoothly over roasted chicken and green beans. He looked me straight in the eye and lied about taking his mistress to Mexico while I believed he was at a conference. Right. The conference. That's fine. Zoe and I will manage. You're the best. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I don't know what I'd do without you. I smiled and squeezed back, even as rage burned cold and clear in my chest. After dinner, I excused myself to take a bath. Instead, I locked myself in our home office and opened my laptop. Vanessa Hartley. I typed the name into every social media platform I could think of. She appeared on LinkedIn first. Marketing consultant, based in Portland, specializing in luxury real estate branding. My stomach dropped. She worked in Derek's industry. They'd probably met at some networking event or industry mixer. Her profile photo showed a stunning blonde in her late 20s, confident smile, expensive-looking blazer. I clicked through to her Instagram, which was public. Photos of trendy restaurants, yoga poses on mountain tops, champagne brunches with girlfriends. And there, buried in a post from 3 months ago, was a group photo from a real estate marketing summit. Derek stood in the background, slightly out of focus, but unmistakably him. How long had this been going on? 3 months? 6? Longer? I scrolled further back through her posts. There. 4 months ago. A photo of a sunset with the caption, "Sometimes the best meetings happen after hours." The location tag said the Grindhouse Cafe, the coffee shop 2 blocks from Derek's office. My hands clenched into fists. I wanted to scream, to break something, to storm downstairs and destroy his comfortable illusion that I was too stupid or too trusting to notice. But that cold, calculating part of my brain stopped me. If I confronted him now, he'd cancel the trip. He'd apologize or make excuses or gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. He'd go underground, be more careful, and I'd never know the full truth. Worse, he might leave me before I had time to protect myself financially and legally. But if I waited, if I let him think his secret was safe, I could control when and how this exploded. A knock on the office door made me jump. I quickly closed all the browser tabs. "Come in." Zoe pushed the door open, leaning against the frame. "Derek's watching some documentary about sharks. I'm going to do homework in my room." "Okay, sweetie." She didn't move. Just stood there, studying me with that uncomfortable perceptiveness. "Mom, are you sure you're all right?" I looked at my daughter, this smart, intuitive person I'd raised mostly on my own. She deserved honesty, but not yet. Not until I knew what I was dealing with. "I promise I'm fine. Just work stress. You know how deadlines are." "Okay." She didn't believe me, but she let it go. "Love you." "Love you too." After she left, I sat in the darkening office, thinking. 3 weeks until October 15th. 3 weeks to prepare. But prepare for what exactly? An idea began forming, audacious and slightly insane. What if I didn't confront Derek before his trip? What if I showed up in Cabo San Lucas instead? What if the surprise wasn't just that I knew about Vanessa, but that I was there, waiting, when they arrived for their romantic getaway? The thought sent adrenaline coursing through me. It was bold. It was dramatic. It was probably the worst idea I'd ever had. Or maybe it was the best. I opened a new browser window and started searching for flights to Cabo San Lucas. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Rita answered on the second ring. "Crescent Design, this is Rita." "It's me. Can you talk?" "Laura?" "Yeah, hold on." I heard her walk away from her desk, a door closing. "Okay, I'm in the break room." "What's wrong?" "You sound terrible." "I found boarding passes in Derek's gym bag. He's taking another woman to Cabo in 3 weeks. The silence stretched for several seconds. Then Rita's voice came back, low and fierce. That absolute piece of garbage. Laura, I'm so sorry. Her name is Vanessa Hartley. She's a marketing consultant who works with luxury real estate. 29 years old. Looks like an Instagram model. Okay, slow down. What are you going to do? I took a breath. I'm going to Cabo. What? I'm going to show up at their resort and confront them. I want to see his face when he realizes I know. I want her to understand that I'm not some clueless wife who'll just disappear quietly. Laura, that's crazy. You could just file for divorce, take him for everything he's worth. I could. But that lets him control the narrative. He'll tell everyone I was paranoid, that the marriage was already over, that I didn't understand him. This way, he can't lie. This way, everyone knows exactly what he did. Rita was quiet for a moment. You're serious about this? Completely. Then I'm coming with you. You're not doing this alone. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Rita, you don't have to do that. Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss this for anything. Besides, you'll need backup. And a witness. And someone to hold your purse while you throw his clothes off the balcony or whatever you're planning. Despite everything, I laughed. I'm not going to throw his clothes off the balcony. We'll see how you feel when you get there. Okay, logistics. When's the flight? October 15th. They're flying first class on the morning departure. I'm thinking I book myself on the same flight, different section, so I can follow them to the resort. Smart. Do you know which resort? I pulled up the reservation confirmation I'd found in Derek's email that morning. He wasn't even trying to hide it, using our shared laptop without clearing his browser history. The arrogance was almost impressive. Vista Del Mar Resort and Spa. 5-star, adults only, all-inclusive. Of course it is. Nothing but the best for Derek's midlife crisis. Rita's typing echoed through the phone. Okay, I'm looking at availability. They've got rooms, but they're not cheap. I don't care what it costs. Put it on my credit card. The one Derek doesn't know about. One of the smartest things I'd ever done was maintaining a separate credit card and small savings account that I'd started during my first marriage. Trust issues from my ex-husband's financial chaos had taught me to always have an escape fund. I'd never thought I'd need it with Derek, but apparently my paranoia was justified. Booked. We arrived the same day, just a few hours after them. I got us a casita with an ocean view. If you're going to have a mental breakdown, might as well have a nice view for it. Thank you, Rita. Seriously. That's what best friends are for. Helping you catch your cheating husband and providing moral support during the subsequent confrontation. It's in the best friend handbook. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot of a grocery store I'd driven to for privacy. My phone buzzed with a calendar notification. Zoe's parent-teacher conferences were next week. The dishwasher needed repair. Our insurance premium was due. Normal life continued, even as my marriage crumbled. I thought about Zoe and how this would affect her. Derek had been the only consistent father figure she'd known since she was 9. He'd come to her school plays, helped with her math homework, taught her to drive last year. She called him dad, not stepdad. This betrayal would hurt her almost as much as it hurt me. But protecting her meant protecting myself first. If I fell apart, we'd both go down. I needed to be strategic, clear-headed, and absolutely certain of my next moves. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. Every morning I kissed Derek goodbye and wished him a good day at work. Every evening I made dinner and asked about his meetings. At night I lay beside him in bed, feeling the warmth of his body next to mine, and thought about how he was planning to share a bed with someone else in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, I documented everything. I took photos of receipts I found for expensive jewelry I'd never received. I screenshotted text messages between Derek and Vanessa that I accessed through our shared cloud storage. They were careful, never explicitly romantic, but the subtext was clear. Inside jokes. Emoji that suggested intimacy. References to last time and can't wait for Cabo. I met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Chin, who came highly recommended by a colleague who'd gone through her own messy split. Patricia listened to my story without judgment, taking notes in a leather portfolio. You have excellent documentation here. The affair, the secret spending, all of it helps in Oregon's equitable distribution laws. She looked up at me over her reading glasses. But I have to ask why you're waiting to file. Why not serve him papers now and freeze the accounts? Because I need to see it with my own eyes. I need to know for certain that this is real and not some elaborate misunderstanding my paranoid brain invented. Patricia didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Just be careful. Confronting him publicly could backfire if he claims you're unstable or harassing them. Document everything at the resort. Don't do anything that could be used against you later. I won't. I just want him to know that I know. That I'm not the fool he thinks I am. All right. I'll have divorce papers ready for when you return. The moment you're back in Portland, we file and freeze everything. Don't give him any warning. I left Patricia's office feeling simultaneously empowered and terrified. This was really happening. I was really going to Cabo to catch my husband with his mistress. Zoe noticed the change in me. She didn't say anything directly, but I caught her watching me with worried eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. One evening while Derek was out at another supposed business dinner, she found me in the kitchen going through old photo albums. Mom, what are you doing? I looked up at pictures of Derek and me on our wedding day. We'd gotten married at a small winery in Willamette Valley. I wore a simple cream dress. He wore a navy suit. We looked happy. Were we ever really happy, or was I always just convenient for him? Just reminiscing. Zoe sat down beside me, studying the photos. Is something going on with you and Derek? I could have lied. I was getting good at lying. But this was my daughter, and she deserved more than casual dismissal. Maybe. I don't know yet. But I need you to trust that whatever happens, you and I will be okay. We've been through hard things before, and we survived. You're scaring me. I'm sorry, baby. I don't mean to scare you. I just need a little time to figure some things out. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat there looking at photos of a life that might be ending. I wondered what pictures Vanessa had of Derek. Were they making memories together while I collected evidence of betrayal? The days crawled by. Derek remained oblivious, going about his routine without any sign that he suspected I knew. He even asked me to pick up his dry cleaning, including the linen shirts he'd need for warm weather. I picked them up and hung them in his closet, imagining him wearing them on a beach with another woman. 2 days before the trip, Derek started packing. I watched from the bedroom doorway as he folded resort wear and swim trunks into his suitcase. You're bringing a lot of clothes for a business conference, I observed. He didn't miss a beat. There's a golf outing and a formal dinner. Got to be prepared for anything. Right. Makes sense. That night, I finished my own packing in secret. Sundresses. Sandals. A new swimsuit I'd bought specifically for this trip. If I was going to confront my husband at a luxury resort, I was going to look amazing doing it. Rita texted me a photo of her suitcase. Ready for Operation Catch a Cheater. I packed my most judgmental sunglasses. I smiled at my phone. Having Rita with me made this feel less insane and more like something I could actually pull off. The night before Derek's flight, I barely slept. He lay beside me, snoring softly, while I stared at the ceiling and ran through scenarios. What would I say when I saw him? How would Vanessa react? Would Derek try to lie his way out of it, or would he finally tell the truth? At 5 a.m, Derek's alarm went off. He showered and dressed while I pretended to sleep. He kissed my forehead before leaving. I'll call you when I land in Seattle. Love you. Love you too, I whispered into the darkness. After his car pulled out of the driveway, I got up and checked his location on the family tracking app he'd insisted we all use for safety. He was heading toward the airport, just like he said. Except he wasn't going to Seattle. He was going to Cabo San Lucas with Vanessa Hartley. And in exactly 6 hours, I would be on a plane following him there. I woke Zoe up and told her I had a last-minute business trip to LA for a potential client. She was staying with Rita's teenage daughter for a few days. She accepted this without question, used to my occasionally unpredictable work schedule. At the airport, Rita met me at the departure gate with 2 coffee cups and a determined expression. Last chance to back out and just key his car instead. I'm not backing out. Didn't think so. Okay then. Let's go catch a cheater. We boarded our flight, and as the plane lifted off from Portland, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. Whatever happened in Cabo, at least I would know the truth. At least I would stop living in a lie. 3.5 hours later, we landed in Cabo San Lucas. The Mexican sun was brilliant and hot, nothing like the gray October drizzle we'd left behind in Portland. Rita grabbed our bags while I checked Derek's location one more time. He was already at Vista Del Mar Resort. Ready? Rita asked. I took a deep breath. Ready. The taxi from the airport wound through dusty roads that gradually transformed into manicured landscapes dotted with palm trees and flowering bushes. Vista Del Mar Resort emerged like a mirage, all white stone and turquoise pools cascading down toward the ocean. Uniformed staff members smiled and waved as our cab pulled up to the entrance, where a massive fountain sent water arcing into the air. Rita paid the driver while I stood frozen, staring at the resort where my husband was currently checking in with another woman. The reality of what I was about to do hit me like a wave. This wasn't some fantasy revenge scenario I'd played out in my head. This was real. Derek was inside that building right now, probably laughing with Vanessa, thinking he'd gotten away with his lie. Come on, Rita said gently, linking her arm through mine. We've come this far. Inside, the lobby was a study in elegant minimalism. Cream-colored marble floors reflected the light from enormous windows overlooking the ocean. A bar made of polished driftwood curved along one wall, where tourists in vacation were sipped colorful drinks. Soft Latin music played from hidden speakers. I scanned the space anxiously while Rita handled check-in, half expecting to see Derek and Vanessa strolling through with their luggage. But the lobby held only strangers, people whose lives weren't currently imploding. We're in Casita 47, Rita announced, holding up key cards. Ocean view, private terrace, and apparently complimentary tequila tasting every evening at sunset. Silver linings. Our casita was stunning. 2 bedrooms connected by a spacious living area that opened onto a terrace overlooking the ocean. White curtains billowed in the breeze. Fresh flowers sat on the coffee table. Under different circumstances, this would have been paradise. I dropped my suitcase and walked straight to the terrace railing, gripping it hard enough that my knuckles turned white. Somewhere in this resort, Derek was unpacking his carefully chosen vacation wardrobe. Was he thinking about me at all? Did he feel even a flicker of guilt, or had he compartmentalized his double life so completely that I simply didn't exist when he was with her? Okay, strategic planning time. Rita joined me on the terrace with 2 bottles of water from the minibar. What's the actual plan here? Are we doing recon first, or are you planning to march up to their room and knock on the door? I don't even know what room they're in. Leave that to me. Rita pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. I have a friend who works in hospitality management. She owes me a favor, and she has connections everywhere. Give me 20 minutes. While Rita worked her networking magic, I changed out of my travel clothes into a sundress and sandals. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked surprisingly normal. I'd expected to see my inner turmoil written across my face, but the woman staring back at me just looked tired and sun-flushed from the flight. I thought about the version of myself that had existed just 2 weeks ago. That Laura had worried about normal things like whether the living room needed repainting and if Zoe was spending too much time on her phone. That Laura had trusted her husband. That Laura seemed impossibly naive now, like a character from someone else's life. Got it, Rita called from the living room. Room 212. Ocean View Suite. Top floor. My stomach flipped. How did you find that out so fast? My friend's cousin works at the front desk here. I told her my sister was surprising her husband for their anniversary and needed to know his room number. She was very helpful once I mentioned a generous tip. Rita, you're terrifying. I prefer the term resourceful. Now, what do you want to do with this information? I walked back to the terrace, looking up at the resort's main building. The top floor. Of course Derek would book the best room. Nothing but luxury for his romantic escape. I need to see them first. Confirm that this is really happening before I do anything I can't take back. Smart. Observation before confrontation. We can stake out the pool area, grab dinner at one of the resort restaurants. They have to surface eventually. We spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the resort, learning its layout while keeping our eyes open for any sign of Derek or Vanessa. The property was larger than I'd expected, sprawling across several acres with multiple pools, 3 restaurants, a spa, and private beach access. Plenty of places for a cheating couple to hide. By evening, my nerves were stretched thin. Every tall man with dark hair made my heart race. Every blonde woman could have been Vanessa. I jumped at shadows and imagined confrontations around every corner. You need to eat something, Rita insisted, steering me toward the main restaurant. You can't have an epic confrontation on an empty stomach. Very poor planning. The restaurant was open air, positioned on a cliff overlooking the ocean. White tablecloths and candlelight created an atmosphere of romance that felt like mockery. Couples sat close together, holding hands across tables, living the kind of vacation Derek had promised me but given to someone else. We were halfway through our appetizers when I saw them. They emerged from the interior of the restaurant, Derek's hand resting on the small of Vanessa's back as they walked toward a table by the railing. She wore a white dress that showed off her tan. Her blonde hair caught the candlelight. She was laughing at something Derek had said, her whole face lit up with joy. Derek looked different than he did at home. Relaxed. Younger somehow. He wore the linen shirt I'd picked up from the dry cleaners, and his smile was easy and genuine in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Maybe years. I couldn't breathe. Seeing them together in person was completely different from finding boarding passes or reading suggestive texts. This was real. They were real. The way he looked at her, the casual intimacy of his touch, the private jokes that made her lean into him. This wasn't just an affair. This was a relationship. Laura, Rita's voice came from somewhere far away. Laura, breathe. You need to breathe. I sucked in air, my chest tight. My hands were shaking so badly that I had to set down my water glass before I dropped it. We can leave, Rita said. We can go back to the room right now. You don't have to watch this. But I couldn't look away. I watched Derek pull out Vanessa's chair. Watched him pour wine for both of them. Watched him reach across the table to take her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles in a gesture I recognized because he used to do the same thing to me. They ordered dinner. They talked and laughed. They looked like any other couple on a romantic vacation, completely unaware that the wife Derek had left at home was sitting 30 feet away, watching her marriage dissolve in real time. I'm going to be sick, I whispered. Rita immediately stood, throwing cash on the table. Come on. Let's get you out of here. She guided me through the restaurant, keeping herself between me and Derek's table. I kept my head down, praying he wouldn't notice me, not ready for the confrontation yet. Not like this, when I could barely stand. Back in our casita, I collapsed on the couch while Rita paced, furious on my behalf. That absolute garbage human. Did you see how he was touching her? Like she was something precious? Meanwhile, you're at home doing his laundry and managing his life, and he's here playing Romeo with someone barely older than his stepdaughter. She's beautiful, I said dully. Did you see her? She's gorgeous. So are you. This isn't about looks, Laura. This is about Derek being a selfish coward who wanted something new and shiny and didn't care who he destroyed to get it. I pulled my knees to my chest, making myself small. I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. We should just go home. No. Rita sat down beside me, her voice firm. You flew 1,000 miles to catch him. You're not running away now. Tomorrow, when you're ready, you're going to walk up to him and show him exactly what happens when he underestimates his wife. What if he doesn't care? What if he just introduces me to Vanessa and says he wants a divorce? Then at least you'll know. At least you'll have your answer and can move forward. But you don't get those answers by hiding in this room. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing something intellectually and feeling brave enough to act on it were completely different things. That night, I lay awake listening to the ocean through the open terrace doors. Rita snored softly in the other bedroom. The resort had grown quiet, just the distant sound of waves and occasional laughter from late-night revelers. I thought about Derek in his ocean view suite, maybe lying beside Vanessa right now. Was he thinking about me at all? Did he wonder if I suspected anything? Or had he erased me so completely from his mind that I simply didn't exist during these stolen days? My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Derek. Made it to Seattle safely. Hotel is decent. Miss you. Give Zoe a kiss for me. The casualness of his lie was breathtaking. He'd sent the text at 11:30 at night, probably from the resort bar or from bed with Vanessa sleeping beside him. He'd taken the time to maintain his deception, to keep me believing in the fantasy of his business conference. I typed and deleted several responses. I know where you are. How's Cabo? Does Vanessa know you're texting your wife? In the end, I sent back a simple heart emoji and turned off my phone. Morning came too bright and too early. Rita was already up, sitting on the terrace with coffee and a determined expression. New day, new game plan. I've been thinking about how to handle this. I shuffled out in my pajamas, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. I'm listening. Going straight to their room is too aggressive. Confronting them at dinner last night would have been too public. But there's a middle ground. Rita pulled up the resort activity schedule on her phone. According to this, there's a couple's massage package that includes private beach cabanas. Very romantic, very popular. Want to bet Derek booked it? How would we even find that out? Already did. Called the spa this morning pretending to be Vanessa confirming her appointment. They have a couple's massage scheduled for 3 o'clock this afternoon. I stared at Rita. You're a criminal mastermind. I prefer to think of it as being thorough. Here's what I'm thinking. We show up at the spa around 3. You wait near the couple's area. When they come out all relaxed and oiled up, you step forward and say hello. Just hello. That's the big plan. Sometimes simple is best. Let him see your face and know that his whole world just ended. Let him scramble and panic and try to explain. You don't owe him a dramatic speech or a big confrontation. Just your presence is enough. The idea was simultaneously perfect and terrifying. What if I freeze? What if I can't say anything? Then you stand there and let him sweat. Trust me, your silence will be more devastating than anything you could say. I spent the rest of the morning trying to decide what to wear to destroy my marriage. The sundress from yesterday felt too casual. The nice dinner outfit I'd packed felt too formal. I settled on white linen pants and a blue silk top that made me feel put together and confident, even if I didn't feel that way inside. Rita insisted we eat lunch at the resort's casual cafe, keeping us visible and establishing our presence. I picked at a salad while scanning every face that passed, wondering if Derek and Vanessa would appear. They didn't. They were probably still in bed or lying by one of the pools, living their fantasy vacation. At 2:30, we walked to the spa. The facility was separated from the main resort, a peaceful sanctuary of stone and water features. Soft music played. The air smelled of eucalyptus and lavender. A sign directed couples' treatments to a private garden area accessible through frosted glass doors. "I'll wait in the regular lounge area," Rita said. "You go through those doors and find a spot where you can see them leave, but they won't spot you immediately. When they come out, that's your moment." "What if I can't do it?" "You can. You're stronger than you think." Rita squeezed my hand. "I'll be right here if you need me. Just text." I pushed through the frosted doors into a garden paradise. Stone paths wound between tropical plants and small waterfalls. Private cabanas lined the perimeter, each one curtained for privacy. Soft New Age music floated through speakers hidden in the foliage. I found a bench partially concealed by a banana plant that gave me a clear view of the main path. From here, I could see anyone leaving the couple's area. I sat down, my heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. 3 o'clock came and went. I checked my phone obsessively, watching the minutes crawl by. Maybe they'd cancelled. Maybe they'd never had an appointment at all, and Rita's information was wrong. Then I heard them. Vanessa's laugh, bright and carefree, followed by Derek's lower chuckle. They came around the corner holding hands, both wrapped in plush white robes, their hair damp from what looked like a post-massage shower. "That was incredible," Vanessa was saying. "Best massage I've ever had." "You were right about this place being amazing." "Only the best for you," Derek replied, pulling her close to kiss her temple. "What do you want to do now?" "We could grab drinks at the beach bar, or head back to the room for a nap." "Beach bar. I want to show off this tan while I still have it." They were 20 feet away now. 15. 10. I stood up from my bench, stepping into the path directly in front of them. Derek saw me first. His face went through a remarkable transformation in the space of 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, shock, and finally pure terror. "Laura." My name came out as a croak. Vanessa looked between us, clearly trying to understand who I was and why Derek looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Hi honey," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "How was the massage? You both look very relaxed." Derek's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. His hand dropped from Vanessa's waist like she'd burned him. "I'm sorry," Vanessa said, her smile uncertain. "Do we know each other?" "We haven't met formally." "I'm Laura Bennett. Derek's wife." The words hung in the air like an explosion in slow motion. Vanessa's face went pale under her tan. She took a step back from Derek, her hand coming up to her mouth. "Wife?" she repeated. "Derek, you said you were divorced." Of course he did. Of course he told her I was already out of the picture, that we were just waiting for paperwork or separation agreements or whatever lie made him feel less guilty about stealing vacation time with his mistress. "Laura, I can explain," Derek started, but his voice cracked halfway through. "Can you?" I felt strangely calm now that the moment had arrived. "I'd love to hear your explanation for why you're in Cabo with Vanessa while you told me you were at a conference in Seattle." "You told me she knew," Vanessa said to Derek, her voice rising. "You said she was fine with you moving on. You said the marriage was over except for paperwork." "The marriage is very much not over," I said. "We share a house, a bank account, and custody of my daughter, who calls you Dad, by the way." This last part was directed at Derek, who looked like he might pass out. A spa employee appeared on the path, concern on her face. "Is everything all right here? Should I call security?" "No need," I said pleasantly. "I'm just having a conversation with my husband and his girlfriend. We'll take it somewhere more private." Derek finally found his voice. "Laura, please. Not here. Let's go somewhere we can talk." "Now you want to talk? That's interesting, considering you haven't wanted to talk for the past however many months you've been planning this trip." I turned to Vanessa, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the tropical plants. "How long have you two been together?" I don't have to answer your questions, Vanessa said, but her voice shook. I didn't know he was still married. I wouldn't have gotten involved if I'd known. She's telling the truth, Derek said quickly. I told her we were separated. This is my fault, not hers. Oh, I know it's your fault. I looked at my husband, this man I'd built a life with, and felt nothing but contempt. I found your boarding passes 3 weeks ago. I've known about Cabo this entire time. I knew about Vanessa, about your lies, about everything. And I decided to come here and watch you dig your own grave. Derek's face went from pale to red. You knew? You've known for 3 weeks and you didn't say anything? Why would I? So you could gaslight me or cancel the trip? This way was much better. This way I got to see exactly who you really are. Vanessa was backing away slowly. I need to go. Derek, we need to talk later. Or maybe never. I don't know. She turned and fled down the path, her white robe flapping behind her. Derek watched her go, then turned back to me with desperation in his eyes. Laura, please. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You lied. You cheated. You stole money from our joint account to pay for this romantic vacation while I worked and took care of your home and your stepdaughter. You made me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong. So no, Derek, I don't want to hear your explanations. What do you want then? His voice cracked. You came all the way here. What do you want? I stepped closer to him, close enough to see the panic in his eyes. I want you to know that I'm not the fool you thought I was. I want you to understand that you didn't get away with anything. And I want you to remember this moment, right here, when you realize that actions have consequences. I turned and walked away, leaving Derek standing alone on the spa path in his white robe, looking exactly like what he was. A man who had gambled everything and lost. Rita was waiting in the main spa lounge, pretending to read a magazine. She looked up when I emerged, searching my face. How do you feel? I considered the question. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. But underneath the adrenaline and shock, I felt something unexpected. Free, I said. I feel free. Rita and I went straight back to our casita, where I collapsed onto the couch and stared at the ceiling while my body processed what had just happened. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation was draining away, leaving me hollow and shaking. That was the most badass thing I've ever witnessed, Rita said, handing me a glass of water. Did you see his face when you said you'd known for 3 weeks? I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I can't believe I actually did it. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I confronted my husband at a luxury resort in Mexico. That's insane. I'm insane. You're not insane. You're incredible. You took control of a situation where he thought he had all the power, and you flipped it completely. Rita sat beside me. How are you really feeling? I took inventory of my emotions. Anger, yes, but also relief. Sadness, but also something like pride. I keep thinking about Vanessa's face when I told her I was his wife. She genuinely didn't know, Rita. He told her we were divorced. Of course he did. Cheaters always have a story that makes them the victim. Poor Derek, stuck in a dead marriage, just trying to find happiness again. Never mind that his wife at home has no idea the marriage is dead. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek appeared on the screen. We need to talk. Please. Room 212. I showed Rita, who snorted. Oh, now he wants to talk. After months of lying. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to hear what he has to say. Part of me never wants to see him again. You don't owe him anything, Laura. Not an explanation, not a conversation, not a chance to justify what he did. But if you want closure, if you need to hear him try to explain himself, then do it. Just remember that nothing he says will make this okay. I looked at my phone, at Derek's message waiting for a response. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of building a life together, of shared dinners and inside jokes and plans for the future. Did I owe those 6 years one final conversation? I'm going to talk to him, I decided. But not alone. Come with me. Are you sure? This seems like a private conversation. I don't want it to be private. I don't want him to have any opportunity to manipulate me or twist things around. I want a witness. Rita nodded slowly. Okay. But if he starts gaslighting you or trying to blame you for his choices, I'm going to lose my mind on him. Fair warning. We changed clothes. I put on jeans and a t-shirt, armor of casualness that said I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Rita wore a similar outfit, but added large sunglasses that made her look like she was preparing for either a spy mission or a celebrity sighting. The walk to the main building felt surreal. Couples strolled past us holding hands and carrying beach bags. Children splashed in one of the pools despite this being an adults-only resort, probably guests' kids visiting for the day. Normal vacation sounds filled the air, laughter and music and the distant crash of waves. None of these people knew that my life was imploding. Room 212 was at the end of a quiet hallway on the top floor. I stood outside the door for a long moment, gathering courage. Rita squeezed my shoulder. You've got this. And if you want to leave at any point, just say the word. I knocked. Footsteps approached from inside, then the door opened. Derek stood there in jeans and a polo shirt, his hair still damp from a shower. He looked tired and defeated, nothing like the relaxed man I'd seen laughing with Vanessa just hours ago. His eyes went to Rita, standing behind me. I thought we could talk alone. Whatever you have to say to me, you can say in front of Rita. She's staying. Derek hesitated, then stepped back to let us in. The ocean view suite was everything the resort's website had promised. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the water. A king-sized bed dominated one wall, unmade and scattered with pillows. Vanessa's belongings were evident everywhere, a makeup bag on the bathroom counter, sandals by the door, a sundress draped over a chair. I forced myself to look at these traces of her presence without flinching. This was the reality. Derek had brought another woman to this beautiful room and shared this bed with her while telling me he loved me. Where's Vanessa? I asked. She left. Took her things and moved to a different room. She's pretty angry with me right now. Good. She should be. You lied to her too. Derek ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration I'd seen 1,000 times. I never meant for any of this to happen, Laura. You have to believe that. I don't have to believe anything. But I'm here, so talk. Explain to me how you accidentally booked a romantic vacation with another woman and accidentally lied to both of us for months. He moved to the window, staring out at the ocean with his back to us. I met Vanessa at a marketing conference 8 months ago. We started talking about real estate branding, and she was so knowledgeable and passionate about her work. We exchanged numbers for professional reasons. Professional reasons, I repeated flatly. Is that what we're calling affairs now? It wasn't an affair at first. We were just friends. She understood the pressures of my industry in a way that you never really could. No offense, but you don't know anything about real estate development. Rita made a noise of disbelief, but I held up a hand to stop her from interrupting. Go on, I said to Derek. You became friends because she understood your job. Then what? We started meeting for coffee occasionally. Just to talk about work stuff. But then those meetings got longer. We'd have lunch, then dinner. She made me laugh, Laura. She made me feel like myself again, not just someone's husband or someone's father figure. I'm sorry, are you actually trying to blame me for your affair? Because you felt like I didn't appreciate the real you? Derek turned from the window, his face flushed. I'm not blaming you. I'm trying to explain how it happened. Things between us had been strained for a while. You were always busy with work and Zoe. We barely talked anymore except about household logistics. Because I was managing our household while you worked late. Those late nights where you were supposedly closing deals, you were with Vanessa, weren't you? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. When did it become physical? I asked, surprised by how clinical my voice sounded. Does that really matter? Yes, it matters. I deserve to know the truth about my own marriage. Derek sank onto the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. 4 months ago. We went to a conference in San Francisco together. We had dinner, drank too much wine, and it just happened. 4 months. A third of a year. While I'd been planning Zoe's birthday party and fixing the leak in our bathroom and believing my husband when he said he was working late, he'd been building a whole separate life with someone else. And you decided to keep seeing her, I said. Not just once as a mistake, but repeatedly. 4 months. I tried to stop. I really did. I told myself it was wrong, that I needed to focus on our marriage. But every time I saw her, I felt alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. She made me remember who I was before all the responsibilities and stress. Rita finally spoke up, her voice sharp. So you thought the solution was to lie to both women and take a vacation with your girlfriend while your wife thought you were at a conference? That's your idea of handling a midlife crisis? Derek glared at her. This doesn't involve you, Rita. It involves me when my best friend calls me sobbing because she found boarding passes to Cabo. It involves me when she asks me to fly 1,000 miles to support her while she confronts her cheating husband. So yeah, Derek, it involves me. Laura. Derek ignored Rita and focused on me. I know I handled this terribly. I should have been honest with you months ago. I should have told you I was unhappy, that I'd met someone else. But I was a coward. I didn't want to hurt you. So instead you let me find out by discovering boarding passes in your gym bag. Much better. I thought I could figure things out without anyone getting hurt. I thought maybe if I spent time with Vanessa, I'd realize it was just infatuation and come back to you ready to fix our marriage. Did you? I asked. Did you realize it was just infatuation? Derek was quiet for a long moment. No. When I'm with her, I feel like the person I'm supposed to be. I'm sorry, Laura. I know that's not what you want to hear. The words should have devastated me. Maybe a few weeks ago, they would have. But standing in his hotel room, looking at this man who'd shared my bed and my life for 6 years, I felt mostly numb. So what happens now? I asked. You want a divorce so you can be with Vanessa? I don't know what I want. This afternoon changed everything. Vanessa is furious. She says I'm a liar and she can't trust anything I told her. She might not even want to be with me now. And if she does? If she forgives you for lying about being divorced, are you planning to leave me? Derek stood and walked toward me, reaching for my hands. I stepped back, keeping distance between us. Laura, I care about you. I always have. You're an amazing woman, an incredible mother to Zoe. But I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. I don't think I have been for a while. There it was. The truth I'd suspected but hadn't wanted to face. My marriage had been dying slowly while I'd been too busy living my life to notice. How long? I asked. How long have you felt this way? I don't know. A year maybe? It wasn't dramatic. We just gradually became roommates instead of partners. We stopped having real conversations. We stopped making each other laugh. Everything became about schedules and responsibilities. And instead of talking to me about it, instead of suggesting counseling or trying to fix things, you went and found someone new. I know. I handled it wrong. But Laura, be honest. Have you been happy? Have you looked at our marriage lately and thought this is what I want for the rest of my life? The question caught me off guard because the answer wasn't simple. Had I been happy? Or had I just been comfortable? Had I been so focused on managing daily life that I'd stopped paying attention to whether my marriage was actually fulfilling? That's not the point, I said finally. Maybe we were having problems. Maybe we drifted apart. But the right response to that is communication, not deception. You don't get to justify your affair by claiming our marriage was already broken. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to make you understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted something new and exciting, and you were willing to lie and sneak around to get it. You didn't care about the consequences until you got caught. Derek's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He glanced at it, and I saw Vanessa's name on the screen. You should probably get that, I said. Your girlfriend might be deciding whether to forgive you or leave you here alone in your luxury suite. Laura, please. Don't leave like this. We need to figure out next steps. The house, our finances, Zoe. We have to make decisions about all of that. We will. But not here. Not now. I came to Cabo to see the truth with my own eyes, and I did. Now I'm going home to talk to a divorce attorney and figure out how to explain to my daughter that her stepfather chose his girlfriend over our family. I turned toward the door, Rita falling in step beside me. Wait. Derek's voice stopped me. What about Zoe? She deserves better than finding out through divorce papers. Let me come home so we can tell her together. You want to cut your romantic vacation short? What about Vanessa? I'll explain to her that I need to handle this properly. That I owe it to Zoe to be there when she finds out. I looked at this man who'd been part of my life for 6 years, who taught my daughter to drive and fixed our leaky faucets and shared Sunday morning coffee with me. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by his own choices. Fine. Come home and tell Zoe. But then I want you out of the house. You can stay with a friend or get an apartment. I don't care where you go, but you're not living under the same roof with us anymore. That's fair. I'll book a flight for tomorrow. Rita and I left without another word. The hallway seemed brighter, the resort sounds louder. My body felt light, like I'd set down a weight I'd been carrying for so long I'd forgotten it was there. How are you holding up? Rita asked as we walked back toward our casita. Honestly? Better than I expected. He basically admitted he's been checked out of our marriage for a year. That's not something I can fix or fight for. It's just over. Are you sad? I considered the question. I'm sad about what I thought we had. I'm sad that I wasted time on someone who didn't value me. But I'm not sad about losing Derek specifically. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. You're mourning the idea of your marriage, not the reality of it. Back in our casita, I called Patricia Chin, my attorney. She answered on the second ring despite it being evening in Portland. Laura, how did it go? He admitted everything. The affair, the lies, all of it. He says he doesn't think he's in love with me anymore. That's actually helpful for the divorce proceedings. Admission of adultery in Oregon can impact asset division. Did you record the conversation? No, but Rita was there. She can testify to what he said. Good. When are you coming back? Day after tomorrow. Derek's flying home tomorrow to help tell Zoe. Then I want to file papers immediately. I'll have everything ready. Laura, I know this is difficult, but you're handling it remarkably well. After I hung up, I found Rita on the terrace, looking out at the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, almost offensively so given the circumstances. We paid for 3 more nights at this resort, Rita said. We should stay. Enjoy the beach, drink overpriced margaritas, remind ourselves that life continues even after it falls apart. I don't know if I can stay here. Everything about this place is tainted by Derek and Vanessa. Then we make new memories. Better ones. We turned this from the place where your husband betrayed you into the place where you started your new life. Rita turned to look at me. Come on, Laura. When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Not for Derek, not for Zoe, just for you? She had a point. I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken a vacation that wasn't built around someone else's schedule or preferences. I'd spent years being accommodating, flexible, easy. Maybe it was time to be selfish. Okay, I said. We stay. But I get to pick all the activities. Deal. What do you want to do first? I thought about it. I want to get very drunk and go dancing. I want to flirt with attractive strangers and remember what it feels like to be seen as more than just someone's wife. Rita grinned. Now you're talking. Let me put on my dancing dress. We spent that evening at the resort's beach club, where a DJ played Latin music and couples danced on a floor made of smooth stones. Rita and I drank tequila sunrises and mojitos, dancing together and with anyone who asked. I felt reckless and free, like I'd stepped out of my own skin and into someone braver. A man named Carlos, visiting from Mexico City, bought me a drink and told me I had beautiful eyes. Another man, an American from Texas, taught me a basic salsa step. I laughed more than I had in months, my face hurting from smiling. At one point, I saw Derek across the beach club. He was alone, sitting at the bar and nursing a whiskey. He looked miserable, watching me dance with a stranger. I caught his eye and raised my glass in a mock toast, then turned back to my dance partner without waiting for his reaction. That was cold-blooded, Rita shouted over the music. I'm so proud of you. By midnight, I was exhausted and tipsy, my feet sore from dancing in sandals. Rita and I stumbled back to our casita, giggling about nothing and everything. You know what the best part of tonight was? I asked as we collapsed on our respective beds. What? I didn't think about Derek once. Not really. I just existed as myself, not as half of a failing marriage. That's growth, Laura. That's healing. I fell asleep smiling, the sound of the ocean filling my dreams. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the terrace doors and my phone buzzing with messages. 3 were from Derek, letting me know his flight time and asking if I wanted to coordinate our return to Portland. 1 was from Zoe, asking how my business trip to LA was going and if I'd bring her back something from Rodeo Drive. Guilt washed over me. I'd lied to my daughter about where I was and why. She had no idea that her world was about to change dramatically, that the family structure she'd known for 6 years was dissolving. I texted Derek back with a simple acknowledgement of his flight information, then sent Zoe a message saying I'd be home soon and yes, I'd bring her a present. Rita knocked on my bedroom door, already dressed in a swimsuit and cover-up. There's a snorkeling trip leaving in an hour. Thought you might want to see some fish and pretend you're a mermaid for a while. That sounds perfect. The snorkeling trip was exactly what I needed. Floating in clear blue water, surrounded by colorful fish and coral formations, I felt my mind quiet. The divorce, the confrontation, the uncertain future, all of it faded into background noise. There was just me and the ocean and the strange beauty of underwater life. Our guide pointed out a sea turtle gliding past, and I followed it for several minutes, mesmerized by how gracefully it moved through its element. I wanted to be like that turtle, I realized. Moving through life with purpose and peace, unbothered by the chaos above the surface. Back on the boat, Rita and I dried off in the sun, letting the warmth soak into our skin. Thank you for coming with me, I said. I couldn't have done any of this alone. Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to. That's what friends are for. Supporting each other through the messy parts. That evening, we had dinner at a small restaurant Rita had found online, away from the resort and its associations with Derek. We ate fresh fish and handmade tortillas, watching locals go about their evening routines. Children played in the street while their parents chatted on doorsteps. Life continued here, simple and real, far removed from the drama of my imploding marriage. What are you going to tell Zoe? Rita asked over dessert. The truth, as much as is appropriate for a 15-year-old. That Derek and I are getting divorced because he's been seeing someone else. That it's not her fault and both of us still love her. She's going to be angry. At him, maybe at you for not telling her sooner. I know. And she has a right to be angry. Her family is falling apart, and she didn't get any say in it. I pushed flan around my plate. I just hope she understands that I'm trying to protect her by being honest now rather than letting her discover the truth on her own like I did. She's a smart kid. She'll get through this. You both will. Our last full day in Cabo, Rita and I rented paddle boards and spent the morning floating in a quiet cove, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her own divorce 5 years ago, how devastating it had been at the time but how much stronger she'd become through it. You're going to reinvent yourself, Laura. In the best possible way. You're going to remember who you were before Derek, before marriage, before all the compromises and accommodations. And you're going to become someone even better. I hope you're right. I'm always right. Haven't you learned that by now? That afternoon, I treated myself to a massage at the spa, deliberately choosing the same facility where I'd confronted Derek just 2 days ago. I wanted to reclaim that space, to fill it with peaceful memories instead of painful ones. The massage therapist worked knots out of my shoulders I didn't know I had, tension I'd been carrying for months or maybe years. As she worked, I let myself cry quietly, releasing everything I'd been holding inside. The therapist didn't comment, just kept working, giving me space to feel everything I needed to feel. Afterward, I sat in the relaxation room and sipped herbal tea, feeling lighter than I had in as long as I could remember. My marriage was ending. My life was changing in ways I couldn't predict or control. But I was still here, still breathing, still capable of experiencing peace. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek saying he'd landed in Portland and would be at the house tomorrow afternoon to talk to Zoe. Another text asking if I was okay, if we could try to handle the divorce amicably for everyone's sake. I typed back a simple response. We'll do what's best for Zoe. Beyond that, talk to my attorney. Then I turned off my phone, finished my tea, and went to meet Rita for one last sunset dinner overlooking the ocean. The flight home felt longer than the journey to Cabo, even though the distance was identical. Rita sat beside me, occasionally squeezing my hand when turbulence hit or when she caught me staring blankly out the window. I'd left Portland as someone's wife, unsure if her suspicions were real or paranoia. I was returning as a woman who knew exactly where she stood, armed with truth and ready to rebuild. Portland greeted us with its typical October drizzle, a sharp contrast to the Mexican sunshine we'd left behind. The gray sky felt appropriate somehow, matching the difficult conversation that waited for me at home. Rita drove me back to my house, the windshield wipers keeping rhythm with my anxious thoughts. Do you want me to come in? She asked as we pulled into my driveway. I can stay while you talk to Zoe if you need backup. I appreciate that, but I think this needs to be just family. Whatever that means now. I grabbed my suitcase from the trunk. But call me later. I might need to process everything. Anytime. Day or night. You know that. The house looked the same as when I'd left it, but everything felt different. I stood in the entryway, looking at family photos on the wall that would need to come down. Derek smiling at our wedding. The 3 of us at Zoe's 8th grade graduation. A vacation to the coast 2 years ago when we'd all seemed happy, or at least I'd thought we were happy. How many of those smiles had been real? How long had Derek been mentally checking out while I posed beside him, believing in our family? Mom? Zoe's voice came from upstairs. Is that you? Yeah, honey. I'm home. She appeared at the top of the stairs, still in her pajamas even though it was afternoon. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she wore the oversized sweatshirt she favored for lazy days. How was LA? Did you get me something from Rodeo Drive? The lie sat between us, one more deception in a house that had been full of them. I couldn't add to it. Actually, sweetie, I need to talk to you about something. Can you come downstairs? Her expression shifted immediately, that teenage intuition that picks up on adult tension. What's wrong? You're doing that voice you do when something bad happened. Just come sit with me, okay? We settled on the couch in the living room, the same couch where Derek and I had watched movies, where Zoe had fallen asleep countless times during family TV nights. I turned to face my daughter, trying to find words that would soften the blow I was about to deliver. I wasn't actually in LA for work, I began. I was in Mexico. In Cabo San Lucas. Zoe's eyes widened. Why would you go to Cabo without telling me? That's so random. I went because Derek told me he was going to Seattle for a conference, but I discovered he was actually going to Cabo. With another woman. The confusion on Zoe's face morphed into understanding, then shock, then anger in rapid succession. Wait, what? Derek's cheating on you? Yes. He's been seeing someone named Vanessa for several months. The Seattle conference was a lie so he could take her on vacation. But you went there too. Why? How did you even know? I explained about finding the boarding passes, about deciding to confront him rather than letting him think he'd fooled me. I kept the details age-appropriate but didn't sugarcoat the reality. Zoe deserved honesty after living in a house of lies. So you just showed up while he was with her? Zoe's voice held a note of admiration mixed with disbelief. That's actually kind of badass, Mom. It wasn't fun, but it was necessary. I needed to see the truth for myself. Where is he now? Is he coming back here? He's coming here this afternoon to talk to you. To explain himself and answer any questions you have. Zoe pulled her knees to her chest, making herself small on the couch. For a moment, she looked like the 9-year-old I'd introduced to Derek, uncertain and vulnerable. Are you getting divorced? Yes. I've already talked to an attorney. Derek and I are going to separate, and he'll be moving out. Because of Vanessa? Because of the lying. Because he chose to handle his unhappiness by deceiving both of us rather than being honest and trying to fix things or ending our marriage respectfully. Zoe was quiet for a long moment, processing. I waited, letting her take her time with feelings that were probably overwhelming and confusing. I thought we were happy, she finally said, her voice small. I thought we were a normal family. We were happy sometimes. But Derek and I had been growing apart for a while. I just didn't want to see it. Did I do something? Is this because of me? I grabbed her hands, forcing her to look at me. No. Absolutely not. This has nothing to do with you. Adult relationships are complicated, and sometimes they fail even when everyone tries their best. But in this case, Derek made choices that hurt our family. That's on him, not you. I called him Dad, Zoe said, tears starting to fall. I introduced him to my friends as my dad. And the whole time he was lying to us. I know, baby. I'm so sorry. She pulled away from me, standing up abruptly. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to hear his excuses. You don't have to if you're not ready. But eventually, you'll probably want some answers. He was part of your life for 6 years. You're allowed to be angry and still want closure. What if I'm never ready? What if I hate him forever? Then that's your choice to make. I won't force you to forgive him or maintain a relationship with him. You get to decide what role, if any, he plays in your life going forward. Zoe wiped her eyes with her sweatshirt sleeve. When's he coming? Around 3. I'm going to my room. Tell him I don't want to see him. She ran upstairs before I could respond, and seconds later I heard her bedroom door slam. I sat alone on the couch, staring at the family photos that now felt like evidence of a life that had never been quite as solid as I'd believed. Derek arrived at exactly 3 o'clock. I watched through the window as he parked his car and sat there for several minutes, gathering courage or maybe just delaying the inevitable. He finally emerged carrying a bouquet of flowers, which struck me as absurdly inadequate given the circumstances. I opened the door before he could knock. Flowers? Really? I didn't know what else to bring. I wanted to show that I'm sorry. Save your apologies for Zoe. If she'll even talk to you. Derek stepped inside, looking around the house like he was seeing it for the first time. Or maybe seeing it for the last time, knowing he wouldn't live here anymore. Where is she? In her room. She doesn't want to see you right now. Laura, I need to explain things to her. She deserves to hear my side. Your side? Your side is that you lied for months and chose your girlfriend over your family. What else is there to explain? Derek set the flowers on the entry table. I love Zoe. I need her to know that this doesn't change how I feel about her. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to blow up her family for someone you barely know. He flinched at my words but didn't argue. We stood in awkward silence, former partners who no longer knew how to be in the same space. I'll go up and talk to her, Derek said finally. Good luck. She's pretty angry. I watched him climb the stairs, his footsteps heavy with dread. Part of me felt vindictive satisfaction at his discomfort. A larger part felt sad that Zoe had to experience this pain because of choices Derek had made. From downstairs, I could hear muffled voices. Derek's low tones, probably trying to sound reasonable. Zoe's higher voice, sharp with anger. I couldn't make out words, but the emotional content was clear. This conversation wasn't going well. After about 10 minutes, Derek came back downstairs alone. His eyes were red, and he looked shaken. She told me she doesn't want to see me anymore. She said I'm not her father and I never really was. Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy. Zoe knew how to wound when she wanted to, and she'd clearly landed a direct hit. She's processing. Give her time. Time? Derek laughed bitterly. How much time? Weeks? Months? What if she never forgives me? Then you'll have to live with that. Consequences, Derek. Actions have consequences. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I never meant for any of this to happen. You keep saying that like it absolves you of responsibility. You made choices. Every text to Vanessa, every lie about working late, every moment you spent planning that vacation while looking me in the eye and pretending everything was fine. Those were all choices. I know. God, Laura, I know. I've been a coward and a liar, and I've hurt the two people who mattered most to me. The two people who mattered most to you are angry and heartbroken. So what happens now? Derek looked up at me with exhausted eyes. I packed some bags while I was at the house yesterday. They're in my car. I'll get the rest of my stuff over the next few weeks if that's okay. Where are you staying? Hotel for now. Then I'll find an apartment. And Vanessa? Are you still with her? He was quiet for a moment. I don't know. She's not returning my calls. I think she's done with me. So you destroyed your marriage for someone who might not even want you anymore. That must feel terrible. It does. But I still think the marriage was already broken, Laura. We were just going through the motions. I sat down on the opposite end of the couch, maintaining distance between us. You know what the worst part is? You might be right. Maybe we were just coasting. But we'll never know if we could have fixed it because you didn't give us that chance. You decided unilaterally that our marriage was over and started a new relationship without ever talking to me about how you felt. Would you have listened? Really? Or would you have dismissed my feelings and told me I was being dramatic? The question stung because I couldn't honestly say he was wrong. Had I been so busy managing our daily life that I'd stopped paying attention to the emotional health of our relationship? I guess we'll never know, I said. But that doesn't excuse what you did. There's a right way and a wrong way to end a marriage. You chose the wrong way. Derek stood up, pulling car keys from his pocket. I should go. Can you tell Zoe I love her? That I'll always be here if she wants to talk. I'll tell her. But don't expect her to reach out anytime soon. She needs time to be angry. What about you? Are you angry? I thought about the question. I was. When I first found those boarding passes, I was furious. But now I mostly just feel sad. Sad that 6 years ended like this. Sad that Zoe has to go through this. Sad that you couldn't be honest with me. For what it's worth, I am sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Wanting something and actually doing it are two different things, Derek. You might not have wanted to hurt me, but you did. Repeatedly. And you'll have to live with that. He left without the flowers, which sat wilting in their cellophane on the entry table. I picked them up and threw them in the trash, then went upstairs to check on Zoe. She was lying on her bed, earbuds in, staring at the ceiling. I knocked gently on her doorframe, and she pulled one earbud out. Is he gone? Yeah. He wanted me to tell you he loves you and he'll be here if you want to talk. I don't. Not now. Maybe not ever. I sat on the edge of her bed. That's okay. You get to decide when and if you're ready. Mom, do you think you'll ever date anyone else? The question surprised me. I haven't thought about it. Why? Because I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to get attached to someone who's just going to leave. My heart broke for her. At 15, she was learning lessons about trust and betrayal that no teenager should have to learn. I understand that fear. But not everyone is like Derek. Some people are honest and loyal and actually mean it when they commit to someone. How do you know? How do you tell the difference? I don't know if you ever really know for certain. But you pay attention. You watch how people act when things are difficult. You notice if their words match their actions. And you trust your instincts when something feels off. Zoe put her earbud back in, signaling the conversation was over. I kissed the top of her head and left her alone with her music and her anger. The house felt enormous and empty with just the two of us. I walked through rooms that Derek and I had furnished together, spaces we'd shared. Everything would need to be divided up, split between two households. The thought was exhausting. My phone buzzed with a message from Patricia Chin asking if I was ready to move forward with filing papers. I texted back a simple yes, and she responded that she'd have documents ready by end of week. Over the next few days, I fell into a strange new routine. I went to work at the design studio, where Rita covered for me during moments when grief hit unexpectedly. I came home to Zoe, who alternated between angry silence and sudden bursts of needing to talk about everything Derek had ever said or done that now seemed suspicious in hindsight. Derek texted periodically, asking about Zoe and trying to coordinate picking up more of his belongings. I kept responses brief and practical. There was nothing left to say that mattered. A week after returning from Cabo, I met with Patricia to sign divorce papers. She'd prepared everything efficiently, documenting Derek's adultery and requesting equitable division of assets. This is pretty straightforward, she explained. Oregon is a no-fault state, but his admitted affair gives U.S. leverage. The house is in both names, so you'll likely need to either buy him out or sell and split proceeds. Same with retirement accounts and shared assets. I want to keep the house if possible. It's Zoe's home. She's already lost enough stability. We'll make that a priority in negotiations. What about spousal support? I don't want anything from him except a fair division of what we built together. I can support myself. Patricia looked at me over her reading glasses. You're handling this remarkably well. Most people in your situation are much more emotional. I cried enough in Cabo. Now I just want to move forward. After signing papers, I drove to a coffee shop and sat alone with a latte, processing the reality that I'd just initiated divorce proceedings. My marriage was officially ending. The life I'd built for 6 years was dissolving into legal documents and asset divisions. My phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Laura Bennett? A woman's voice, uncertain and slightly hesitant. Yes, who's this? This is Vanessa Hartley. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I was hoping we could meet. There are things I think you should know about Derek. The request was so unexpected that I almost laughed. The other woman wanted to meet? What could she possibly have to tell me that would matter now? Why would I meet with you? Because I've been doing some research since Cabo. And I discovered things about Derek that I think you deserve to know. Things that suggest you and I aren't the only ones he's lied to. Curiosity warred with anger. Part of me wanted to hang up and never think about Vanessa again. But another part, the part that had flown to Mexico to confront the truth, wanted to know everything. When and where? We agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop the next afternoon. I told Rita about the planned meeting, and she insisted on coming along. No way are you meeting the mistress alone. What if she's crazy? What if this is some weird revenge thing? I think she genuinely wants to tell me something. She sounded scared on the phone. Even more reason for backup. I'm coming, and that's final. The next day, Rita and I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. Vanessa showed up right on time, looking nervous and much less polished than she had in Cabo. Her blonde hair was pulled back simply, and she wore minimal makeup. She spotted us and walked over slowly, like approaching a dangerous animal. Thank you for meeting me. I know this is weird and probably the last thing you want to do. Sit down, I said, more curious than angry now. What did you want to tell me? Vanessa pulled out her phone, opening what looked like a notes app. After Cabo, after everything fell apart, I started looking into Derek's background. I felt like such an idiot for believing his lies, and I wanted to understand who I'd actually been involved with. And I found out he's done this before. Not just cheating, but the whole pattern. He was married before you, did you know that? I felt my stomach drop. What? No. He told me you were his first marriage. That's what he told me too when I asked about his relationship history. But he was married to someone named Christine Morrison for 3 years before he met you. They got divorced 7 years ago. Rita leaned forward. How did you find this out? Public records mostly. Marriage licenses and divorce decrees are accessible if you know where to look. I found the paperwork online. Vanessa pulled up documents on her phone, showing me official records from Multnomah County. Derek Bennett married to Christine Morrison. Divorced citing irreconcilable differences. I tracked her down through social media, Vanessa continued. Sent her a message explaining who I was and asking if she'd be willing to talk. She called me yesterday. What did she say? My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. That Derek cheated on her too. That he had a pattern of getting restless in relationships and starting something new while lying to everyone involved. She said he's charming and convincing, and he genuinely believes his own justifications for his behavior. The revelation was like being punched in the chest. Derek had lied about his entire history. I'd built a life with someone whose past I'd never actually verified, taking his word for everything. Why are you telling me this? I asked Vanessa. She looked down at her hands. Because I feel responsible. I should have asked more questions. I should have verified things he told me instead of just believing him. And I wanted you to know that this isn't your fault. He's done this before, and he'll probably do it again. It's who he is. You're not responsible for his choices, Rita said firmly. He lied to both of you. I know, but I still feel awful. I participated in hurting someone, even if I didn't know the full story. Vanessa's eyes met mine. I'm sorry, Laura. For my role in all of this. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or ulterior motives. I saw only genuine regret and something like solidarity. We'd both been fooled by the same man, believing different versions of lies designed to serve his needs. Thank you for telling me, I said finally. This actually helps. It confirms that leaving him is the right choice. Are you divorcing him? Papers are already filed. I'm done being married to someone I never really knew. Vanessa nodded. I hope things work out for you. You seem like a good person who deserves better than what he gave you. After she left, Rita and I sat in silence, processing everything we'd just learned. A whole previous marriage he never mentioned, Rita said. That's next-level deception. I feel like such an idiot. How did I not know? How did I never think to check? Because normal people don't expect their partners to lie about their entire history. You trusted him, which is what you're supposed to do in a relationship. I pulled out my phone and called Patricia Chin. I need to add something to the divorce filing. Derek lied about his marital history. He was married before me and never disclosed it. Does that change anything legally? Patricia was quiet for a moment. It might. If he lied on any legal documents you signed together, that could be fraud. Let me look into it. Can you get me the details of his previous marriage? I forwarded her the documents Vanessa had sent me, feeling a grim satisfaction. Derek's lies were catching up with him in ways he probably never anticipated. That evening, I did something I'd been avoiding. I called Christine Morrison. Christine answered on the third ring, her voice cautious but curious. She'd been expecting my call since Vanessa had mentioned she might reach out. "I'm guessing you want to compare notes about Derek," Christine said after I introduced myself. "Vanessa told me about what happened in Cabo. That took guts, showing up like that. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I couldn't just take someone's word for it anymore." I paused, gathering courage for the question I needed to ask. "How long were you together before you found out he was cheating?" 2 years married, 1 year dating before that. I thought everything was fine until I got a call from a woman who said she'd been seeing Derek for 6 months. She thought I should know because he'd told her we were separated and living apart, which was a complete lie. We were very much together, sharing a home, planning to start a family. The similarity to my own situation was chilling. Derek had used almost identical tactics, the same lies about relationship status, the same compartmentalization that let him maintain 2 separate lives without apparent guilt. "What happened after you found out?" I asked. I confronted him, obviously. He cried and apologized, said it was a mistake, that he'd been going through a difficult time at work and made bad choices. He begged me to give him another chance, promised he'd never do it again. Christine's laugh was bitter. I believed him. We went to marriage counseling for about 3 months. Everything seemed better. Then I found messages on his phone from yet another woman. Different person, same pattern. "How did you finally leave?" I realized he wasn't going to change. This was who he was. Someone who needed constant validation from new people, who got bored once the excitement of a new relationship wore off. I could stay and live in constant suspicion, always wondering if he was lying, or I could leave and build a life with someone trustworthy. So I filed for divorce. I walked to my kitchen window, looking out at the yard Derek and I had landscaped together 2 summers ago. How much of our life had been real, and how much had been performance? Did he try to fight the divorce? I asked. No, actually. I think he was relieved. By then he was already involved with someone else, though I didn't know it was you until Vanessa sent me your information. He moved on quickly. That detail stung more than I expected. I'd thought our relationship had been special, that Derek had genuinely fallen for me. But apparently I was just the next person in line, conveniently available when his previous marriage ended. Did he tell you anything about me when you were together? I needed to know if I'd been in the picture before Christine was completely out of it. He mentioned meeting someone new about a month after our divorce was finalized. Said she had a daughter and seemed really great. I assumed he'd moved on after we separated, but now I wonder if he'd already lined you up before we even split. The timeline made me queasy. Derek and I had started dating 7 years ago, right around when his divorce from Christine would have been finalized. Had he been pursuing me while still married to her? Had I been the affair partner without knowing it? Christine, when exactly did you separate? What month and year? We separated in April, divorce was final in July. 7 years ago. Derek and I started dating in June. That same June. The silence on the line was heavy. We were both doing the math, both arriving at the same uncomfortable conclusion. So he was already seeing you before the divorce was final, Christine said slowly. Which means he was cheating on me with you, then cheated on you with Vanessa. That's consistent behavior over nearly a decade. I felt sick. I had no idea he was still married. He told me he'd been single for over a year when we met. I believe you. He's very good at creating whatever reality serves him best. The scariest part is that I don't think he even sees it as lying. He genuinely believes his own stories in the moment. We talked for another hour, sharing details about our respective relationships with Derek. The patterns were identical. Initial charm and attentiveness, gradual emotional distance, eventual infidelity, and elaborate lies to maintain multiple relationships simultaneously. Christine had experienced the exact same cycle I was going through now. Has he tried to contact you since Cabo? Christine asked. Just texts about logistics. Picking up his things, discussing the house. Nothing personal. That's actually good. It means he's accepted that you're done. When I first left him, he went through a phase of trying to win me back. Love bombing, grand gestures, promises of change. It was exhausting. I don't think I could handle that. I'm barely holding it together as it is. You're stronger than you think. Trust me, surviving Derek Bennett requires strength you didn't know you had. But you'll get through it, and eventually you'll be grateful it ended when it did instead of wasting more years. After we hung up, I sat in the dark kitchen processing everything. Derek wasn't just a cheater. He was someone with an established pattern of behavior spanning at least a decade. Christine, me, Vanessa, and probably others we didn't know about. How many women had he deceived? How many relationships had he destroyed while convincing himself he was the victim of circumstances? I forwarded my conversation notes to Patricia, who responded within minutes that this information significantly strengthened our case. Pattern evidence of deception could impact asset division and potentially uncover hidden financial accounts or other assets Derek hadn't disclosed. The next morning, I got a call from Derek. His voice sounded strained, almost panicked. Did you talk to Christine? My ex-wife Christine? I did. Had a very enlightening conversation actually. Laura, whatever she told you, you need to understand that marriage was complicated. We both made mistakes. She told me you cheated on her multiple times. That you lied about being separated when you started seeing other people. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? That was years ago. I was different then. I've grown and changed. I laughed, a sharp sound without humor. Have you? Because from where I'm sitting, you did exactly the same things to me that you did to her. Same lies, same justifications, same pattern. The only difference is the women's names. You're twisting things. Making me sound like some serial cheater when that's not who I am. Then who are you, Derek? Because I don't think I ever actually knew. The man I married doesn't exist. He was just a character you played until you got bored and moved on to the next performance. I loved you. I still care about you and Zoe. You love the idea of having someone at home managing your life while you pursue excitement elsewhere. That's not the same as actually loving a person. Derek was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from me, Laura? I've apologized. I've admitted I handled things badly. What else can I do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. I just want you to leave us alone while I rebuild what you destroyed. What about my things? I still have belongings at the house. Make a list. I'll pack them up and you can arrange pickup. But I don't want you coming to the house when Zoe's home. She's not ready to see you. She has to talk to me eventually. I'm still part of her life. No, Derek. You were part of her life. You gave that up when you chose Vanessa. Zoe gets to decide if she wants any relationship with you going forward, and right now she doesn't. I ended the call before he could argue further. My hands were shaking, but I felt clearer than I had in weeks. Understanding Derek's pattern, knowing I wasn't the first or likely the last, somehow made everything less personal. His betrayal wasn't about my inadequacy. It was about his inability to be faithful or honest in any relationship. At work that afternoon, I threw myself into a new project for a client launching a boutique hotel. The creative work was a welcome distraction from the chaos of my personal life. Rita kept checking on me between her own projects, bringing me coffee and snacks I barely touched. You seem different today, she observed during a late afternoon break. More settled somehow. I talked to Derek's ex-wife last night. Found out I'm not special, just the next in a series of women he's lied to and cheated on. That's horrible and also weirdly validating. Exactly. It's not that I wasn't good enough or didn't try hard enough. He's just fundamentally incapable of monogamy or honesty. Knowing that makes it easier to let go. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe asking what was for dinner. The mundane question felt grounding, a reminder that life continued despite everything. Teenagers still needed to eat. Bills still needed paying. The world kept turning. That evening, Zoe and I made pasta together, working side by side in the kitchen without talking much. She seemed calmer than she had been, less angry and more thoughtful. "Mom, can I ask you something?" She was grating Parmesan, not looking at me. "Always. Do you think you'll be okay? Like actually okay, not just pretending for my sake." I stopped stirring sauce to look at her properly. "Yeah, baby. I think I will be. It doesn't feel like it right now, but I'm starting to see that ending things with Derek might be the best thing that could have happened. Because he's a liar? Because staying with someone who lies means I would have had to keep pretending I didn't know the truth. That would have made me smaller, more bitter. At least this way I get to rebuild honestly. I don't think I want to see him again. Maybe ever. Is that okay?" "That's completely okay. You don't owe him anything, especially not forgiveness or a relationship. Maybe someday you'll feel differently, but if you don't, that's valid too." Zoe nodded, returning to her cheese grating. "I'm glad you found out. I know it hurts now, but you deserve better than someone who treats you like that." Pride swelled in my chest. My daughter was wise beyond her years, probably because she'd already survived one family breakdown when I divorced her biological father. She understood that sometimes love meant letting go of people who couldn't be what you needed. Over the next 2 weeks, life developed a new rhythm. I packed Derek's belongings methodically, filling boxes with clothes and books and possessions that had shared space with mine. Each item felt like shedding skin, removing traces of a life that had been based on lies. He arranged for a moving company to pick everything up on a Saturday when Zoe and I were conveniently out of the house. I didn't want to be there for the final removal of his presence, didn't want to watch strangers carrying away the physical evidence of our failed marriage. When we returned home, the house felt lighter. Empty spaces where his things had been looked like possibilities rather than losses. Patricia called with updates on the divorce proceedings. Derek's attorney had responded to our filing, and they were proposing a settlement agreement. "He's offering you the house if you assume the full mortgage," Patricia explained. "He'll take his retirement account and half the value of shared investments. No spousal support on either side." "What about the money he spent on Cabo? Can we recover that?" "Probably not. Oregon is a no-fault state, and marital funds used for affairs generally aren't recoverable unless you can prove financial harm beyond the normal asset division. So he gets to spend thousands of our money on his girlfriend and face no consequences?" In terms of the money itself, unfortunately yes. But the divorce settlement as a whole can account for his poor financial choices. You're getting the house, which has significant equity. That's worth more than the vacation costs in the long run. I agreed to the terms because fighting over every detail felt exhausting. I wanted the divorce finalized, wanted to close this chapter and move forward. Holding on to anger about the Cabo expenses would only prolong my connection to Derek. The house became truly ours, mine and Zoe's, when I started making changes. I repainted the living room a color Derek had vetoed years ago. I rearranged furniture, bought new throw pillows, hung different artwork. Each change felt like reclaiming space, making the house reflect who I was rather than who we'd been as a couple. Zoe helped enthusiastically, suggesting paint colors and helping move furniture. One Saturday afternoon, we stood in the newly painted living room, surveying our work. "It looks better," Zoe said. "More like actually ours instead of just a place where we happen to live." That's exactly what I was going for. My phone rang. An unknown number, but I answered anyway, having learned that unknown numbers sometimes brought important information. "Is this Laura Bennett?" A man's voice, professional and slightly formal. "Yes, Who's calling? My name is Marcus Chen. I'm an investigator with the Oregon State Bar Association. I'm calling about Derek Bennett. Are you his wife? My stomach dropped. Soon to be ex-wife. We're divorcing. Why? We've received complaints about Mr. Bennett's business practices. I can't discuss details, but I wanted to verify some information. Were you aware that he's been operating as a licensed real estate broker? Yes, he works in real estate development. According to our records, his broker's license was suspended 6 months ago for ethics violations. Has he discussed this with you? The room tilted slightly. No. He never mentioned any suspension. He's been going to work every day. I see. That's concerning. Operating without a valid license is a serious offense. Can you tell me if he's been involved in any property transactions in the past 6 months? My mind raced through recent months. Derek had mentioned closing several deals, celebrating successful negotiations over dinner. Had all of that been lies too? He talked about deals, but I don't have specific information. We keep our work lives separate. Understood. If you do have any documentation about his business activities, it could be relevant to our investigation. Here's my direct number if you want to share information or if you think of anything useful. After the call ended, I immediately contacted Patricia. Derek's broker license has been suspended for 6 months. He never told me. If he's been working without a license, could that affect our divorce settlement? Absolutely. If he's been earning income illegally, we need to know about it. That could impact asset division and potentially expose him to criminal charges. Can you access any of his business records? He has a home office. I packed most of it up, but the boxes are still here waiting to be picked up. Don't let those boxes leave. I'm getting a court order to review them. If there's evidence of illegal activity, we need to preserve it. The next few days were chaotic. Patricia obtained an emergency order preventing Derek from removing any documents from the house. Derek's angry calls went straight to voicemail as my attorney dealt with his attorney. Investigators from the state bar showed up to review the boxes I'd packed, spending hours photographing documents and taking notes. It turned out Derek hadn't just been working without a license. He'd been forging documents, misleading clients about his credentials, and pocketing fees for services he wasn't legally authorized to provide. The investigation had started when a client discovered their property transaction was invalid because Derek couldn't legally broker the deal. This is way bigger than a divorce case now, Patricia told me during an emergency meeting. Derek's looking at potential fraud charges, fines, and possibly jail time depending on how deep this goes. I had no idea. How did I live with someone for 6 years and not know he was committing fraud? People are good at hiding things when they want to. And it sounds like Derek is an expert at compartmentalizing his life. Different lies for different people, keeping everyone in the dark about his real activities. The divorce proceedings accelerated once Derek's legal troubles became apparent. His attorney advised him to settle quickly and favorably to avoid having marital assets frozen by criminal proceedings. I ended up with the house, majority of retirement accounts, and no financial obligation to Derek beyond splitting some minor shared debts. Zoe watched all of this unfold with a mix of satisfaction and bewilderment. So Derek was not only a cheater but also a criminal, she asked over dinner one night. Apparently. Though I don't think he saw it that way. He probably convinced himself he was just doing business differently, that the rules didn't really apply to him. That's so messed up. How did you not see any of this? Because I trusted him. Because I didn't think I needed to verify everything he told me. That's what happens in relationships. You give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm never trusting anyone ever again, Zoe declared dramatically. Don't do that. Don't let Derek's lies make you cynical about everyone. Most people are basically honest. We just happened to encounter someone who wasn't. 3 months after Cabo, the divorce was finalized. I stood in Patricia's office signing the final papers that officially ended my marriage to Derek Bennett. 6 years reduced to a legal document, a division of assets, and a promise that we were no longer bound to each other. How do you feel? Patricia asked as I signed the last page. Free. Relieved. A little sad about what I thought we had, but grateful to know the truth. I handed back the papers. What happens to Derek now with the criminal charges? That's separate from the divorce. He's facing multiple counts of fraud and working without proper licensing. His attorney is trying to negotiate a plea deal, but it's not looking good for him. He'll likely face significant fines and possibly probation or jail time. And Vanessa? Is she involved in any of this? No. She appears to have been another victim of his deception. The state bar investigators interviewed her, and her story checked out. She genuinely believed he was who he claimed to be. I thought about Vanessa and her phone call that had started unraveling Derek's web of lies. In a strange way, she'd done me a favor by reaching out. Without her information about Christine, I might never have looked deeper into Derek's history. That evening, Rita took me out to celebrate the divorce being final. We went to a wine bar downtown, toasting to new beginnings with expensive glasses of Pinot Noir. To Laura Bennett, newly single and ready to conquer the world, Rita declared. I don't know about conquering the world, but I'm ready to figure out who I am without being someone's wife. What's the first thing you want to do with your freedom? I thought about it. Travel somewhere just for me. Not a family vacation or a romantic getaway, just me exploring somewhere new. Maybe Europe. I've always wanted to see Paris. Then book it. Take 2 weeks, see Paris, drink wine in sidewalk cafes, flirt with French men who don't know your history. Come back refreshed and ready for whatever comes next. The idea was terrifying and exciting in equal measure. I'd never traveled alone before, had always been part of a couple or a family unit. But maybe that was exactly what I needed. Time alone to rediscover myself. Over the next month, I did exactly that. I booked flights to Paris, reserved a small apartment in the Marais district, and planned an itinerary that included museums, restaurants, and long walks with no particular destination. Zoe stayed with Rita's family, excited to spend time with her friend and supportive of my solo adventure. Paris in December was cold and beautiful. I spent my days wandering through the Louvre, sitting in cafes watching people, visiting bookstores where I couldn't read most of the titles but loved the atmosphere. I ate dinner alone at small restaurants, initially self-conscious but gradually comfortable with my solitude. One evening, I sat at a cafe near Notre Dame, watching the sun set over the Seine. A man at the next table, French accent thick and charming, asked if he could share my table since the cafe was crowded. We talked for hours about art and travel and life philosophies. He didn't ask if I was married or why I was alone. He just enjoyed the conversation, and so did I. Nothing happened beyond talking, but it reminded me that I was still capable of connection. That Derek's betrayal hadn't broken something fundamental in me. I could still meet new people, have interesting conversations, feel attraction and possibility. When I returned to Portland, I felt different. Lighter. More solid in myself. Zoe picked me up from the airport with Rita, both of them eager to hear about my trip. You look different, Zoe observed as we drove home. Happier maybe? I feel different. Like I remembered who I was before all the chaos. Good. Because I like this version of you better than the sad version. At home, I found mail waiting for me, including an official-looking envelope from the county court. Derek's plea deal had been finalized. He was sentenced to 2 years probation, substantial fines, and community service. His real estate license was permanently revoked. I felt oddly nothing reading about his punishment. No satisfaction, no sadness, just a sense of closure. Derek's story was no longer connected to mine beyond legal documents and a shared history. Life settled into a new normal over the following months. Zoe and I developed routines that felt authentically ours, unburdened by the weight of maintaining appearances or accommodating someone else's schedule. We had Friday movie nights where we picked films Derek would have hated. We painted the guest room a bold teal color and turned it into a creative space where I could work on personal design projects and Zoe could spread out her art supplies. Work at the design studio became more fulfilling as I took on bigger projects. Without the emotional drain of a failing marriage, I had energy to invest in my career. Rita and I pitched a major hotel chain together, winning a contract that would keep us busy for the next year. The professional validation felt earned in a way that nothing had during my marriage, when I'd always made my career secondary to Derek's needs. Spring arrived with its usual Pacific Northwest drama of sudden sunshine followed by unexpected rain. I started running in the mornings, something I'd always meant to do but never prioritized. The physical exertion cleared my mind, gave me time to process thoughts without distraction. I ran along the river trail, watching the city wake up, feeling strong and capable in my own body. One Saturday morning in late April, almost 7 months after Cabo, I was at the farmer's market selecting vegetables when I heard someone call my name. I turned to find Vanessa standing a few stalls away, looking uncertain about whether to approach. "Hi," she said, walking over slowly. "I wasn't sure if you'd want to talk to me." "It's fine. I'm not angry at you anymore." And it was true. Whatever residual resentment I'd carried had dissolved during my time in Paris. Vanessa had been deceived as much as I had, just a different role in Derek's ongoing performance. "How are you doing?" she asked. "I heard about the divorce being finalized and everything with his license." "I'm good actually. Really good. How about you?" "Better. I've been in therapy working through trust issues and making better choices about who I get involved with." She smiled ruefully. "Turns out I have a pattern of dating men who lie." Derek was just the most extreme example. We talked for a few minutes about recovery and moving forward, two women who'd been caught in the same man's web of deception and found their way out. Before we parted, Vanessa said something that stayed with me. "I'm glad you showed up in Cabo. It was humiliating at the time, but it saved me from wasting more time on someone who was never going to be honest. So thank you." Walking home from the market, I thought about how strange life was. A year ago I'd been planning what I thought was my future with Derek, believing in a marriage that was already crumbling. Now I was single, professionally successful, and somehow happier than I'd been in years. The path from there to here had been painful, but I'd emerged stronger. Zoe seemed to be healing too, though in her own way. She'd started seeing a therapist who specialized in adolescent trauma, working through her feelings about Derek's abandonment. Some days she still got angry, venting about his lies and how stupid she felt for calling him dad. Other days she seemed almost philosophical about it, recognizing that his failures weren't reflective of her worth. "My therapist says Derek probably has narcissistic personality traits," Zoe told me one evening while we were making dinner. "That's why he could lie so easily. He doesn't really process how his actions affect other people." That sounds about right. Though I'm not sure a diagnosis makes it easier to understand. It kind of does for me. It means it wasn't personal. He would have done the same thing to anyone. We just happened to be the people in his path. Her maturity continued to amaze me. At 16 now, she was navigating complex emotional terrain with more grace than many adults. I worried sometimes about how this experience would shape her future relationships, whether she'd carry Derek's betrayal into her adult life. But then she'd laugh at something ridiculous or share an insight about her friend's drama, and I'd remember she was resilient. We both were. Summer brought unexpected changes. My boss at the design studio announced her retirement, and she wanted me to take over as creative director. The promotion came with a significant raise and the opportunity to shape the studio's direction. I accepted immediately, energized by the challenge. Rita threw me a celebration dinner at her house, inviting our colleagues and friends. Standing in her backyard surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me, I felt a wave of gratitude for the life I'd built. Not the life I'd planned with Derek, but something better because it was authentically mine. "Speech," someone called out, and others picked up the chant. I stood on Rita's deck, looking at the faces turned toward me. A year ago, I thought my life was falling apart. I'd just discovered my husband was lying to me, planning a vacation with someone else while I stayed home believing everything was fine. And you know what? My life did fall apart. But in falling apart, it revealed what was real and what was built on lies. All of you are real. This career I've built is real. The relationship with my daughter is real. Everything else was just noise I needed to clear away. The applause felt like validation, but more than that, it felt like community. These people had witnessed my breakdown and recovery. They'd supported me through the worst parts and celebrated my emergence on the other side. Later that night, Rita and I sat on her porch after everyone else had left, drinking wine and watching fireflies in her garden. "You've come a long way from the woman who called me crying about boarding passes," Rita observed. "Sometimes I can't believe that was only a year ago. It feels like a different lifetime." "That's because you're a different person now. You had to be to survive what Derek put you through. Do you think I'll ever trust someone again? Like really trust them enough to build a life together?" Rita considered the question. "I think you'll trust differently. More carefully, with your eyes open. But that's not a bad thing. Blind trust is what got you into trouble. Informed trust, where you know someone deeply and still choose them, that's actually stronger." I let her words settle over me. Maybe she was right. Maybe the lesson wasn't to never trust again, but to trust more wisely. In August, I received an unexpected email from Christine, Derek's first wife. We'd stayed in occasional contact, sharing information as Derek's legal troubles continued to unfold. But this email was different. "Laura, I wanted you to know that Derek contacted me last week. He's apparently in some kind of court-ordered therapy and was making amends as part of his treatment. He apologized for how he treated me during our marriage and acknowledged that his behavior was abusive. I don't know if he'll reach out to you, but I wanted to give you a heads up. Also, I'm getting married next month. To someone honest and kind who treats me the way I deserve. Just wanted you to know that happiness after Derek is definitely possible. Christine." I read the email twice, processing the information. Derek was in therapy, attempting to make amends. Part of me wondered if he'd contact me, and part of me hoped he wouldn't. I didn't need his apology. His legal consequences and loss of career were sufficient acknowledgement of his wrongdoing. But Christine's news about her engagement filled me with genuine happiness. She'd found someone trustworthy after Derek. That was possible. Moving forward into healthy love was possible. That evening, I talked to Zoe about it while we were organizing her school supplies for the upcoming year. "Derek's apparently in therapy and apologizing to people he hurt," I said casually. Zoe looked up from sorting pens. "Is he going to apologize to us?" "I don't know. Would you want him to?" She thought about it, chewing her bottom lip the way she did when considering something serious. "Maybe. Not because I'd forgive him, but because it would be good to know he actually understands what he did. Right now I think he probably just sees himself as unlucky that he got caught." "That's very mature of you. I learned it in therapy. Wanting acknowledgement isn't the same as offering forgiveness. I can want him to understand without ever wanting him back in my life." 2 weeks later, Derek did reach out. An email, not a phone call, which felt cowardly but also appropriate given our history. He wrote about being in therapy, about recognizing his patterns of deception and the harm he'd caused. He apologized specifically for lying about his past marriage, for the affair with Vanessa, for stealing from our joint accounts to fund his vacation, for failing Zoe as a father figure. The email was thorough and seemed genuine, though with Derek it was hard to tell what was authentic remorse versus performance of remorse. He ended by saying he didn't expect forgiveness but wanted us to know he was working on becoming someone better. I showed the email to Zoe, letting her decide how or if she wanted to respond. She read it twice, her expression unreadable. "It's a good apology," she said finally. "But it doesn't change anything. He still did all those things, and saying sorry doesn't undo the damage." "No, it doesn't." "Do you want to write back?" "No. Let him wonder if I even read it." "That seems fair." I sent a brief response acknowledging receipt of his email and wishing him well in his recovery, nothing more. Then I archived the conversation and moved on with my day. Derek's apology was about his healing journey, not mine. I'd already done my healing without needing his participation. Fall arrived with its usual burst of color. Zoe started her junior year of high school, already thinking about college applications and future plans. We toured universities together, driving through Oregon and Washington to visit campuses. Watching her interact with admissions counselors and current students, I saw the young woman she was becoming. Confident, thoughtful, unafraid to ask hard questions. "What do you think about me going far away for college?" she asked during one drive home. "Like maybe East Coast or even international? I think you should go wherever feels right for you. I'll miss you terribly, but I don't want you limiting your choices because of me. Would you be okay? Living alone in the house?" "I'd be more than okay. I'd be proud watching you chase your dreams. That's what good parents do. We raise you to leave." She was quiet for a moment. Derek would probably have wanted me to stay close. He always talked about me going to Portland State so I could live at home. Derek wanted a lot of things that were more about his comfort than your growth. You don't owe him any consideration in your college choice. Good. Because I'm thinking about international relations programs. Maybe Georgetown or even schools in Europe. Pride swelled in my chest. My daughter was dreaming big, unencumbered by Derek's small thinking or his betrayal. She was becoming exactly who she was meant to be. In October, exactly 1 year after the Cabo confrontation, Rita suggested we take a trip to celebrate how far I'd come. Not Cabo, obviously, but somewhere new where I could create fresh memories. "Where do you want to go?" she asked over coffee at our favorite spot. "Somewhere I've never been. Somewhere Derek and I never talked about visiting together. I want it to be completely mine." We settled on Iceland. Neither of us had been there, and the landscape looked otherworldly in photos. We booked a week in Reykjavik with day trips to waterfalls and hot springs planned. Iceland was everything I needed. The vast empty landscapes, the steam rising from geothermal springs, the northern lights dancing across the sky on our third night there. Standing in near freezing temperatures watching green and purple lights ripple overhead, I felt the last pieces of my anger at Derek dissolve. He'd lied and cheated and nearly destroyed me. But I'd survived. More than survived, I'd transformed into someone stronger and more authentic. His betrayal had been a gift in disguise, forcing me to examine my life and rebuild it on a foundation of truth rather than comfortable deception. "What are you thinking?" Rita asked, standing beside me as we watched the lights. "That I'm grateful. Not for what Derek did, but for what I became in response to it." Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Trauma can destroy you or forge you into something stronger. You chose the stronger path. Back in Portland, I dove into the creative director role with renewed energy. The studio was thriving under my leadership, taking on clients we'd never have attracted before. I hired 2 new designers, expanded our services, and started a mentorship program for young designers from underrepresented backgrounds. Work became more than just a career. It became a mission, a way to create opportunities for others while building something meaningful. I stayed late not because I had to but because I wanted to, passionate about every project and excited for each new challenge. My personal life evolved too. I went on a few dates, nothing serious but enough to remind myself I was capable of connection. One man, a photographer named James who I met at a gallery opening, became a friend after we mutually decided we weren't romantically compatible. He introduced me to his artist community, expanding my social circle beyond work colleagues. I took a pottery class just because it sounded interesting. I joined a book club that met monthly at a wine bar. I said yes to invitations I would have declined during my marriage, building a life that felt full and authentic. Zoe watched these changes with approval. "You seem happy, Mom. Like genuinely happy, not just pretending everything's fine." "I am happy. Happier than I've been in years. Maybe happier than I've ever been. Because of Derek leaving? Because I'm finally living honestly. I'm not pretending to be satisfied with less than I deserve. I'm not making myself smaller to fit someone else's expectations. I'm just existing as fully myself." In December, a year after my solo Paris trip, I received an unexpected package. Inside was a book, a published memoir by a woman who'd survived financial fraud by her husband. A note tucked inside explained that the author had read about my case through court records while researching for her book. She wanted to thank me for my courage in pursuing justice and included her book as a gift. Reading her story, I recognized echoes of my own experience. The gradual realization of deception, the confrontation, the legal battles, the eventual rebuilding. Her journey had taken longer than mine, but she'd also emerged stronger and more authentic. On the last page, she'd written a personal note. To Laura, your story inspired parts of mine. Thank you for showing that survival isn't just possible but can lead to thriving. Keep building your beautiful life. I set the book down, overcome with emotion. My nightmare with Derek had inadvertently helped someone else make sense of their own trauma. Pain shared became pain diminished, transformed into something useful. That Christmas, Zoe and I started new traditions. We volunteered at a shelter on Christmas morning, serving breakfast to families experiencing homelessness. We had dinner with Rita and her family rather than spending the holiday alone. We made plans for the future without the shadow of past betrayal hanging over us. On New Year's Eve, I stood on my back porch watching fireworks light up the Portland sky. Zoe was at a party with friends, and I'd chosen to stay home, comfortable with solitude in a way I'd never been before. My phone buzzed with a text from James, the photographer friend. Happy New Year, Laura. Here's to another year of becoming. Becoming. The word resonated. I wasn't a finished product, wasn't done evolving or growing or discovering who I was. I was in process, always becoming something new. At midnight, as the city erupted in celebration, I made a toast to myself. To survival, to growth, to the courage it took to confront hard truths. To Zoe and her resilience. To Rita and her unwavering friendship. To everyone who'd supported me through the worst year of my life and celebrated as it transformed into the best. My phone buzzed again. This time an email notification. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. It was from a literary agent who'd somehow heard my story and wanted to know if I'd ever considered writing a book about my experience. I stood there reading the email, considering possibilities I'd never imagined. My story of betrayal and recovery, my confrontation in Cabo, my journey back to myself. Could it help others navigating similar situations? Could my pain become purpose? The idea was both terrifying and exciting. Writing about Derek, about the affair, about my mistakes and recovery, would mean reliving difficult moments. But it would also mean taking full ownership of my narrative, telling my story in my own words rather than being a footnote in someone else's drama. I saved the email to respond to later, needing time to consider. But as I stood on my porch watching the last fireworks fade, I felt something settle inside me. Whatever I decided about the book, whatever came next in my career or personal life, I knew I could handle it. Derek's betrayal had broken me open, but in that breaking I discovered a core of strength I didn't know I possessed. I'd learned I could survive devastation and emerge not just intact but improved. I'd learned that endings could be beginnings, that loss could reveal what was truly valuable. Most importantly, I'd learned that I didn't need someone else to complete me or validate my worth. I was enough on my own. Whole, capable, and ready for whatever came next. The future stretched ahead, unknown and full of possibility. I'd once thought my future was tied to Derek, to our marriage, to the life we were building together. That future had been an illusion, pretty but insubstantial. This new future was real. Built on truth, strengthened by adversity, authentically mine. Whatever it held, I would face it with open eyes and hard-won wisdom. I would trust carefully, love honestly, and never again settle for comfortable lies over difficult truths. The clock struck 12:15. A new year had begun. Somewhere in Portland, Derek was living his own life, dealing with consequences of his choices. Vanessa was probably moving forward too, hopefully having learned the same lessons about trust and honesty that I had. But their stories were no longer connected to mine except as history, as lessons learned and incorporated. My story continued independently, shaped by my choices and dreams rather than their deceptions. I went inside and pulled out my laptop. Whether I wrote a book or not, I wanted to document this moment. The feeling of standing on the other side of devastation, looking back at the path I'd traveled and forward to roads not yet taken. I typed, I discovered my husband was going on vacation with his mistress. When he arrived, I was there. That confrontation changed everything, but not in the ways I expected. It didn't save my marriage. It ended it. But in that ending, I found something more valuable than any relationship. I found myself. The words felt right, true in a way that nothing in my marriage had been. I kept writing, the story pouring out. Not for a book or an agent, just for me. A record of survival, of transformation, of a woman who'd been knocked down and chosen to get back up stronger. Outside, the city had quieted. The fireworks were over. People were heading home or to after-parties, celebrating the arbitrary turning of a calendar page. But for me, the new year felt genuinely new. A blank page waiting to be filled with authentic experiences rather than comfortable lies. I wrote until my fingers were tired and my eyes burned. Then I saved the document, closed my laptop, and went to bed in a house that was truly mine, in a life I'd rebuilt from ruins. Tomorrow I'd wake up and continue building that life. I'd work on projects I was passionate about. I'd have dinner with Zoe and listen to her college plans. I'd consider the literary agent's email and decide if I wanted to share my story with a wider audience. I'd keep running in the mornings, keep taking pottery classes, keep saying yes to new experiences and opportunities. Tomorrow and all the days after, I'd keep becoming. Keep growing. Keep choosing truth over comfort and authenticity over performance. Derek had given me one final gift, though he'd never understand it. He'd shown me what I was capable of surviving, and in doing so, he'd freed me to become someone I'd never imagined I could be. Someone whole. Someone strong. Someone exactly enough. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.